Jake Morrison checked his watch for the third time in 10 minutes. The big clock on the council chamber wall showed the same time, but he needed something to look at besides the endless rows of alien faces staring down at the speakers. The Zephyrian delegate had been talking for 47 minutes about trade, rules that everyone already knew by heart. The human ambassador shifted in his seat. The chair was designed for beings much larger than humans, so his feet barely touched the floor. After 37 years in the Galactic Council, humanity still got the furniture that did not quite fit. Jake had stopped asking for proper chairs years ago. Around him, representatives from 47 different worlds sat in their perfect seats. The tall, crystal-like Vextar species had chairs that let light pass through their bodies. The water-breathing Hydros delegates sat in glass tanks built right into their section. Even the tiny micro-beings had platforms that put them at eye level with everyone else. Humans got standard chairs that were too big. Jake looked down at his tablet. 3 more agenda items after this one. A vote on mining rights in some distant system. A discussion about research funding that would probably go to everyone except human projects. Then the weekly report on border security that somehow never mentioned the attacks on human colonies. He had given up trying to bring up those attacks months ago. Every time he raised the issue, Council Speaker Vextar would promise to look into it later. Later never came. The attacks continued. Human families kept disappearing from outer rim settlements, and the Council kept talking about trade regulations. The Zephyrian finally finished speaking. Jake watched as the voting began. Green lights for yes, red lights for no. The same pattern. Every time, the big alliance species voted together. The smaller worlds followed their lead. Humanity voted alone, and their vote never seemed to matter much. Jake stood up. Several nearby delegates glanced at him with mild interest. Humans did not usually move around during sessions. They sat quietly, voted when asked, and rarely caused trouble. That was probably why everyone had stopped paying attention to them. He walked toward the door. Ambassador Morrison. The voice echoed through the chamber. Speaker Vextar towered above everyone else, his crystal body catching the light from a dozen directions. The session is not over. Please return to your seat. Jake stopped at the doorway, but did not turn around. It is for us. He walked out. Behind him, he heard confused murmurs from the other delegates. Someone asked what the human had meant. Someone else suggested they continue with the vote. Within minutes, the chamber returned to its normal routine. Jake took the HFY elevator down to the human section of the station. The hallways here were different from the main levels. Smaller, built to human scale. After decades of living in a galaxy designed for other species, these corridors felt like home. He passed the human cafeteria where Lisa Hayes was eating lunch alone. She looked up when she saw him. How did the session go? She asked. Same as always, Jake said. Are you ready? Lisa nodded. She had been ready for months. They all had. Jake's communication device buzzed. A simple message appeared on the screen. Protocol 7 is active. He sent the same message to every human settlement, research station, and ship in the galaxy. 2 words that had been planned for years, but never used until now. On the research station orbiting Kepler 442b, Dr. Carl Ross received the message. While studying samples from a newly discovered planet, he looked at the screen for a long moment, then began shutting down his equipment. His alien research partner, a slug-like being from the Gastropod Consortium, watched in confusion. Dr. Ross, what are you doing? We are in the middle of important work. Carl saved his research files to the galactic database. Everything they had discovered about the planet's unique bacteria would remain available to other scientists. The work will continue, he said. Just not with us. 3,000 light-years away, Captain Ben Cooper received the same message on his ship. The Endurance was 2 days away from leading a joint mission to stop a conflict in the Vega system. Ben changed course without explanation. His alien crew members asked questions, but Ben just told them they would understand soon enough. On Titan Station, engineer Kate Lewis was in the middle of explaining her new fusion reactor design to a group of eager alien scientists. When her tablet buzzed, she stopped talking mid-sentence. The aliens waited for her to continue, but Kate just started packing her tools. "Where are you going?" asked Dr. Mortek, a four-armed engineer from Centauri Prime. "You were about to show. Use the power coupling design." Kate handed him a data chip. "Everything you need is on there. Good luck with your project." She walked out, leaving the alien scientists staring at each other in confusion. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out thousands of times. Human doctors left their hospitals. Human teachers walked out of their classrooms. Human engineers abandoned their construction projects. Human traders closed their shops and headed for the nearest spaceport. None of them said goodbye. None of them explained where they were going. They just left. On New Geneva Station, the largest human settlement outside Earth's solar system, Mayor Ellen Brooks made an announcement over the station's communication system. All human residents should prepare for immediate departure. Follow Evacuation Plan Delta. This is not a drill. The alien residents of New Geneva watched in shock as their human neighbors loaded their belongings onto transport ships. Many of these humans had lived on the station for decades. Their children had been born there. Some had alien spouses who chose to come with them. "What is happening?" asked Zix, a young Altarian who worked in the station's main computer center. His human supervisor, Pete Walker, was deleting files from the central database. "We are leaving," Pete said simply. "But why? Where are you going?" Pete looked at the alien he had worked with for 5 years. Zix was a good being. Honest, hardworking, curious about everything. In another life, they might have been friends for decades. "Take care of yourself, Zix," Pete said. "You are going to do great things." The computer center went dark an hour later. Back on Nexus Prime, the council session continued. Most delegates had already forgotten about Jake Morrison's strange exit. They were discussing mining rights now, arguing about which species would get to extract valuable minerals from a newly discovered asteroid field. It was not until the afternoon that someone noticed the human section of the station was unusually quiet. Security Chief Ralton, a large bear-like creature from the Ursine system, went to investigate. The human quarters were empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of everything. Furniture, personal belongings, even the pictures on the walls. It looked like no one had ever lived there. Ralton checked the docking bay. All human ships were gone. He checked the passenger logs. Every human on the station had left within the past 6 hours. He called Jake Morrison's communication device. No answer. He tried the human embassy on Centauri Prime. The line was disconnected. He contacted Earth directly. The message came back as undeliverable. Something cold formed in Ralton's stomach. He ran back to the council chamber, his heavy footsteps echoing through the empty corridors of what used to be the human section. The session was still going on when he burst through the doors. "Speaker Vextar," he called out, interrupting a heated debate about trade routes. "We have a problem. The humans are gone." The chamber fell silent. 46 species turned to stare at the security chief. "What do you mean, gone?" Vextar asked. "I mean gone," Ralton repeated. "All of them. Every human on this station, every human ship in the system. They have all left." For the first time in the council's history, no one knew what to say. 3 days had passed since the humans left, and Speaker Vextar still could not believe what he was seeing. The council chamber looked exactly the same as always, but something felt wrong. The human section sat empty, its chairs lined up in perfect rows with no one to fill them. For the first time in 37 years, a full council session was meeting without human representatives. Chancellor Morgan from the Centauri Federation stood at his podium, his forearms waving in anger. This is completely unacceptable. You cannot just walk away from legal contracts. The humans signed agreements. They made promises. They have duties to fulfill. Several other delegates nodded in agreement. The aquatic representative from Hydros. Prime rose from her water tank, her blue skin flashing with stress patterns. Our deep space exploration project was supposed to launch next week. We spent 12 years planning this mission. 12 years of work, and now the humans are just gone. Dr. Catherine, the head scientist from the Advanced Research Consortium, tapped his tablet with sharp clicks. The human research teams were leading 43 different projects across 17 star systems. Medical research, engineering studies, agricultural development. All of it abandoned. Vextar tried to maintain order, but even his crystal body showed signs of straying. Cracks appeared along his surface when he was stressed, and today those cracks were deeper than anyone had seen before. Please, everyone remain calm. I am sure there is a reasonable explanation for this situation. But there was no explanation. No one had any idea why the humans had left. Communications Director Kelth climbed up to his speaking platform, using his 8 spider-like legs. His species managed most of the galaxy's long-range communication networks, so if anyone would know where the humans went, it would be him. I have contacted every human settlement, every human ship, every human research station, Kelt H reported. None of them respond to our calls. It is as if they have turned off all their communication equipment at the same time. That is impossible, said Admiral Tusktar from the Military Defense Council. Ships need communication systems for navigation. Colonies need them for emergency situations. No species would cut off all contact with the outside galaxy. The humans did, Kelth replied simply. Trade Minister Valanash, a floating gas-bag creature from the nebula systems, drifted closer to the center of the chamber. The economic impact is already being felt. Human cargo ships carried 30% of all goods between the outer rim and the core worlds. Those trade routes are now empty. What about their contracts? Morgan demanded. They were scheduled to deliver food supplies to 6 different colonies this month, medical equipment to the research stations, construction materials for the new orbital platforms, all canceled, Valanash said. No explanation given. The cargo is sitting in warehouses across the galaxy with no one to transport it. The more the delegates talked, the more they realized how much they had depended on the humans without ever thinking about it. It was like discovering that a vital organ in your body had been removed, and only now were you feeling the pain. Security. Chief Raltone entered the chamber and walked directly to Speaker Vextar. He whispered something that made the crystal being's cracks grow even deeper. What is it? Chancellor Morgan asked. Ralton turned to address the full council. We have been monitoring the space around every major system where humans lived or worked. Long-range sensors show no trace of human ships anywhere in the galaxy. They have to be somewhere, Admiral Tusktar insisted. 12 billion humans do not just disappear. Thousands of ships, hundreds of space stations. They must be hiding. Where? Ralton asked. We have checked every system within 500 light years of their known positions. We have contacted trade partners, research collaborators, even species that barely knew humans existed. No one has seen them. Dr. Sylvan from the Telepathic Council raised one of her tentacles. Her species could sense the thoughts of other beings across vast distances, but even they had limitations. We have attempted to locate human minds using our psychic networks. The results are disturbing. The chamber grew quiet. The Telepathic Council rarely spoke during normal sessions, so when they did, everyone listened. Human thoughts have a very distinct pattern, Dr. Sylvan continued. They think differently than any other species we know. More direct, more focused. For 37 years, we have been able to sense the presence of human minds across the galaxy like a constant background hum. She paused, her tentacles curling inward. 3 days ago, that hum stopped. The silence in the chamber was complete. Even the air recycling systems seemed to quiet down. "You mean they are dead?" someone whispered. "No," Dr. Sylvan said quickly. "Death feels different. This feels like distance. As if they have moved so far away that we can no longer sense them." "How far would they have to go?" Vextar asked. "Beyond the edge of the galaxy," Dr. Sylvan replied. "Perhaps beyond the range of our most powerful sensors." This news hit the Council like a physical blow. The idea that an entire species could simply leave the galaxy was almost impossible to understand. Space travel between galaxies would take thousands of years with current technology. Even if humans had some kind of advanced propulsion system, the journey would be incredibly dangerous. Why would they take such a risk? Minister of Historical Records Quindle shuffled through his data files. His species had perfect memory, and then memory. Kept detailed records of everything that happened in the galaxy. "I have been reviewing recent interactions with human representatives, looking for clues about their intentions." "What did you find?" Vextar asked. Ambassador Morrison filed 17 formal complaints over the past 2 years. Each one concerned attacks on human civilian populations, pirates targeting human cargo ships, accidents at human research facilities that seemed suspicious, discrimination in council voting procedures. The chamber stirred uneasily. Several delegates shifted in their seats. These complaints were reviewed and filed appropriately, Chancellor Morgan said defensively. Standard procedure was followed. "Yes," Quindle agreed. "They were filed and then ignored." "That is not true," Morgan protested. "We promised to investigate." "But did you actually investigate?" Quindle asked. "Did anyone follow up on these reports? Did anyone take action to protect human colonies from attack?" No one answered. "The humans tried to work within our system," Quindle continued. "They followed proper procedures. They filed the correct paperwork. They asked for help through official channels. And we did nothing." Trade Director Velcor, who had worked closely with human merchants for decades, spoke up quietly. "I think I know what happened." All eyes turned to him. Velcor was known for being practical and honest, not given to dramatic statements. "The humans realized we did not really consider them equal partners," he said. "We let them join the council. We let them participate in meetings. We even let them contribute to our projects. But we never truly accepted them as one of us." "That is ridiculous," Morgan snapped. "Humans had the same rights as any other species." "Did they?" Velcor asked. "When was the last time a human proposal was approved without major changes? When was the last time a human scientist was chosen to lead a major research project? When was the last time we actually listened when they asked for help?" The uncomfortable silence gave him his answer. "They were useful," Velcor continued. "Good workers, reliable partners, excellent problem solvers. But they were never really part of the family. And I think they finally realized that Dr. Catherine pulled up some data on his tablet. I have been analyzing human research contributions. Over the past 5 years, they provided solutions to 38 major scientific challenges. Their work directly benefited every species in this council." He paused, looking around the chamber. "How many times did we acknowledge their contributions in official records?" More. Uncomfortable silence. "How many times did we include human scientists as lead researchers on follow-up projects?" No one answered. "How many times did we make sure human colonies received the same protection and support as colonies belonging to other species?" The silence stretched on until it became painful. Speaker Vextar finally spoke, his voice carrying a tone that no one had heard from him before. "It appears we have made a terrible mistake. What do we do now?" Admiral Tusktar asked. "We find them," Morgan declared. "We send ships to search beyond the galaxy's edge. We bring them back. And then what?" Velcor asked quietly. "Assuming we could find them, assuming we could convince them to return, what exactly would we offer them? The same treatment they received before?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. For the first time in the Council's history, no one seemed to know what to do next. 2 months had passed since the humans disappeared, and the galaxy was falling apart in ways no one had expected. Dr. Zephal stared at the broken atmospheric processor on Kepler-7, trying to understand what had gone wrong. The massive machine was supposed to turn the planet's poisonous air into something breathable for the Centauri colonists, but it had stopped working 3 weeks ago. "Have you tried the emergency restart procedures?" asked his assistant, a young engineer named Takran. 5 times, Zephal replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I have followed every instruction in the manual. I have checked every circuit, every pipe, every filter. Everything looks perfect, but the machine will not work." The problem was that the manual had been written by humans. Dr. Peter Walsh had designed these atmospheric processors specifically for the Centauri colony project, but he had disappeared along with all the other humans. The instructions he left behind were complete and detailed, but they were missing something important. They were missing Peter. Zephal had worked with Peter for 6 years. He had watched the human engineer fix dozens of atmospheric processors, but he had never really understood how Peter knew what to do. The human had a way of looking at a broken machine and somehow knowing exactly what was wrong with it. He would make small adjustments that were not in any manual, tiny changes that made everything work perfectly. "Maybe we should contact the manufacturer," Takran suggested. "The manufacturer was a human company," Zephal said quietly. "They are gone too." 17 different worlds had been using human atmospheric processors. All of them were starting to fail, and no one knew how to fix them. On Andromeda Station, Dr. Relkin faced a similar problem in the medical bay. The regenerative healing chambers had been working perfectly for 8 years, ever since Chief Medical Officer Alex Turner had installed them. They could heal almost any injury in a matter of hours, and they had saved thousands of lives. Now they were killing people. "Patient in Chamber 3 is showing signs of cellular breakdown," Nurse Valsa reported, her voice tight with worry. Relkin checked the readings. The chamber was doing exactly what it was supposed to do, following the same programs it had always used. But somehow the results were wrong. Instead of healing the patient, the machine was causing his healthy cells to attack each other. "Shut it down," Relkin ordered. This was the 7th patient this week who had been hurt by the healing chambers instead of helped by them. The machines were functioning perfectly, according to their programming, but something about that programming was no longer working correctly. Alex Turner had spent months training other medical staff to use the chambers, but he had never been able to explain how he knew when to adjust the settings for different species. He just seemed to understand how the machines interacted with living tissue in ways that no one else could figure out. "Should we try contacting other medical facilities?" Valsa asked. "Maybe someone else has found a solution." "I already tried," Relkin said. "Every station that uses these chambers is having the same problems. No one knows how to fix them." The healing chambers were being shut down across the galaxy. Thousands of patients who might have been saved were dying from injuries that should have been easily treatable. Meanwhile, the economic problems were getting worse every day. Captain Durlock of the gastropod merchant ship Steady Profit sat in his empty cargo hold, staring at shipping contracts he could no longer fulfill. His species had built their entire economy around the transport routes that human cargo ships had established over the past 30 years. Humans had been perfect business partners for the gastropod consortium. They were reliable, honest, and they understood how to move cargo efficiently between different types of worlds. More importantly, they were willing to take the dangerous routes that other species avoided. "Sir," his first officer called from the bridge, "the Rigel colony is requesting an emergency food delivery. They are running low on supplies." Durlock looked at the contract. Rigel was located near the disputed zone, where pirates often attacked cargo ships. Human traders had been making regular deliveries there for years, because their ships were fast and their crews were clever enough to avoid trouble. What is our estimated chance of reaching Rigel safely? Durlock asked his navigation officer. Ran some calculations. Without human escort ships or human-designed route planning, approximately 30%. Durlock closed his eyes. 30% was not good enough. His crew had families to feed, and his ship was too valuable to risk on such dangerous odds. But if he did not make the delivery, the Rigel colonists would starve. Send a message to Rigel, he finally said. Tell them we cannot make the delivery. Suggest they contact someone else. Sir, we are the fourth company to refuse this contract. No one else is willing to take the risk either. Durlock had feared this would happen. Without human shipping, companies to handle the dangerous routes, many colonies were becoming cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Food, medicine, and supplies that had always arrived on schedule were no longer coming. How many other colonies are in similar situations? He asked. 17 that we know of, his officer replied. Probably more. On Titan Station, a group of alien engineers stared at the half-finished fusion reactor that engineer Kate Lewis had been building. The device was supposed to solve the energy crisis for 7 different civilizations, providing clean, unlimited power for their growing populations. Can anyone make sense of these calculations? Asked Dr. Mortek, pointing at equations written on a whiteboard. 5 of the galaxy's best engineers studied the numbers. They understood the basic principles of fusion energy, but Kate's approach was completely different from anything they had seen before. She had been using mathematical concepts that seemed simple when she explained them, but now made no sense to anyone else. I think this symbol represents plasma density, suggested Dr. Calvin from the Physics Institute. No, I believe it indicates magnetic field strength, disagreed Professor NAR, single quotes OTH dot. They had been arguing about the equations for weeks. Kate had left behind detailed notes, complete blueprints, and even video recordings of herself explaining the theory. But somehow, no one could understand what she had been trying to do. Maybe we should start over with a traditional fusion design, Mortek suggested. That would take 20 years to develop, Calvin pointed out, and it would only provide 1/10 the power output of Kate's design. The engineers fell silent. 7 civilizations were counting on this reactor to power their expansion into space. Without it, their populations would be stuck on overcrowded homeworlds for decades. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out thousands of times. The humans had been quietly essential to so many systems that their absence was causing everything to break down. Navigation charts that human explorers had created were proving to be incomplete. Other species were discovering that human navigators had been making mental adjustments to their courses based on experience and intuition that was never written down. Ships following the official charts were getting lost or flying into dangerous areas. Agricultural programs that humans had designed were failing as alien farmers realized they did not understand the subtle timing and environmental adjustments that human experts had been making. Crops were dying, and food shortages were beginning to appear on dozens of worlds. Communication networks that human technicians had maintained were developing problems that no one else knew how to solve. Messages between star systems were being delayed or lost entirely. Even simple things were becoming difficult. Human teachers had been working in schools across the galaxy, and their students were struggling without them. Human counselors had been helping other species deal with psychological problems. Human artists had been contributing to cultural exchanges that brought different civilizations together. All of that was gone now. Back on Nexus Prime. Speaker Vexstar reviewed the daily reports with growing alarm. Every day brought news of more systems failing, more colonies in distress, more problems that no one knew how to solve. How many emergency situations are we dealing with now? He asked his aide. 237 critical problems, requiring immediate attention, the aide replied. 412 secondary issues that will become critical within the next month. Vexstar's crystal body was showing stress fractures that ran from his base to his peak. What about our search efforts? Any word from the fleets we sent to find the humans? Nothing. Long-range sensors have detected no signs of human presence anywhere beyond the galactic rim. The speaker looked out at the vast emptiness of space through the chamber's viewing window. Somewhere out there, 12 billion humans were building a new life without them. And here in the galaxy they had left behind, everything was slowly falling apart. Perhaps, Vextar said quietly, we are beginning to understand what we lost. 6 months after the humans disappeared, the Galactic Council approved the largest search operation in their history. Ships from every major civilization spread out across the galaxy's edge, looking for any sign of where humanity might have gone. Admiral Tusk-Tar commanded the search fleet from his flagship, the Mighty Sword. For 3 months, his ships had been scanning every star system within 1,000 light-years of the galactic rim. They found nothing but empty space and distant stars. Report, Tusk-Tar ordered as he entered the bridge. Long-range sensors detect no human technology signatures, his science officer replied. No communication signals, no engine emissions, no trace elements from human manufacturing processes. Tusk-Tar stared at the star charts displayed on this main screen. Red dots marked all the areas they had already searched. Blue dots showed where they still needed to look. There were far more blue dots than red ones. How is it possible for 12 billion people to simply vanish? He muttered. Sir, his communications officer called out. We are receiving a priority message from Nexus Prime. Speaker Vextar wants to speak with you immediately. The main screen changed to show the crystal being's worried face. The stress fractures in his body had grown worse over the past months, creating a web of cracks that made him look fragile. Admiral, I need you to return to the core systems immediately, Vextar said. We have discovered something important. Have you found the humans? Tusk-Tar asked hopefully. No, but we have found out why they left. 2 days later, Tusk-Tar sat in a secure meeting room deep inside Nexus Prime. Around the table were the most senior members of the Galactic Council, their faces grim with knowledge that none of them wanted to share. What we are about to tell. You must not leave this room, Speaker Vextar began. The Council has been investigating human activities during the months before their departure. What we discovered is deeply disturbing. Security Chief Ralton activated a holographic display. Documents and video recordings filled the air above the table. These are files we found in abandoned human facilities. They paint a very different picture of recent events than what we believed was happening. The first document was a security report written by Commander Zara Quinn of the Terran Defense Force. The report was dated 8 months ago, and it described a series of attacks on human colonies in the Outer Rim systems. Colony ships carrying human families were being targeted by pirates, Ralton explained. But these were not random attacks. The pirates knew exactly when and where the ships would be, what cargo they carried, and how many people were on board. Tusk-Tar. Read through the report. This suggests the pirates had inside information. It gets worse, Ralton continued. He brought up another document. This is a report from Agent Matt Stone, a human intelligence operative. He discovered that someone was selling information about human ship movements to pirate groups. The next file showed surveillance footage from a space station near the border regions. The recording showed 3 beings in a private meeting room, exchanging data chips and credit transfers. Tusk-Tar recognized one of the beings immediately. That is Sub-Commander Drekinus from the Hegemony military, he said. Yes, Vextar confirmed. It appears that certain members of the Hegemony have been working with pirates to target human civilians. The Hegemony was a military alliance of 3 aggressive species who had always believed that might made right. They had never been happy about humanity's growing influence in the Council, but Tusk-Tar had not realized how far they were willing to go to stop it. There is more, Ralton said grimly. The next series of documents showed a pattern of discrimination that went back years. Human proposals in the Council had been deliberately delayed in committee. Human scientists had been excluded from important research projects. Human diplomatic messages had been intercepted and sometimes altered before being delivered. The humans knew about all of this? Tusktar asked. They tried to work within the system, Vextar replied. Ambassador Morrison filed complaint after complaint. He provided evidence of the discrimination, the attacks, the systematic exclusion from important decisions. But every time he brought these issues to the council, certain members would argue that the evidence was not clear enough, or that more investigation was needed. Trade Minister Valinash, who had been silent during most of the meeting, finally spoke up. I remember those sessions. Morrison would present his evidence, and then Sub-Commander Draconis or Chancellor Morgan would raise procedural objections. They would demand more proof, more documentation, more time to study the issues. And we always agreed to give them more time, Vextar said bitterly. We thought we were being fair and careful. We did not realize we were being manipulated. Doctor. Catherine pulled up another file. This is from Dr. Ellen Brooks, the former head of Human Astrophysics Research. She discovered something called Project Horizon in the months before the departure. The file contained star charts and mathematical calculations that were almost impossible to understand. Ellen had been studying something about extragalactic space, but her research notes were written in a code that the Council's best experts could not break. What was Project Horizon? Tusktar asked. We think it was humanity's escape plan, Catherine replied. Ellen appears to have been working on some kind of advanced space travel technology, something that would allow large groups of ships to travel. Vast distances vary quickly. The implications were staggering. If humans had developed technology that could move entire populations across intergalactic space, it would explain how they had managed to disappear so completely. Why did they not share this technology with the Council? Someone asked. Would you share your most advanced technology with people who were trying to destroy you? Valinash replied quietly. The room fell silent as everyone considered the question. Raoul Tan brought up one final document. It was a personal letter that had been found in Jake Morrison's abandoned office. The letter was addressed to his daughter, who lived on Earth. My dear Sarah, the letter began. By the time you read this, we will be far from the galaxy that we once called home. I know you will have questions about why we left, and I want you to understand that this decision was not made lightly. Tusktar read the letter aloud, his voice growing quieter with each sentence. We came to the stars with hope. We believed that we could be part of something bigger than ourselves, a community of different species working together for the good of all. For 37 years, we tried to make that dream real. But we learned that some dreams are not meant to come true. No matter how hard we worked, no matter how much we contributed, no matter how many times we tried to help, there were those who would never accept us as equals. We could have fought. We could have used our technology and our determination to force our way into the community that rejected us. But that would have made us no better than those who tried to destroy us. Instead, we chose to leave. We will build our own community in a place where no one can tell us that we do not belong. We will remember the friends we made, and we will honor the lessons we learned, both good and bad. Do not mourn for us, Sarah. We are not running away. We are moving towards something better. The letter was signed simply, Your father, Jake Morrison, last ambassador of humanity to the Galactic Council. When Tusktar finished reading, no one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Speaker Vextar broke the silence. The investigation has also revealed that the hegemony planned to propose a motion to expel humanity from the Council within the next year. They had been building support among several smaller species by spreading rumors about human ambitions for galactic dominance. The humans knew about this too? Tusktar asked. Agent Stone's reports suggest they did. It appears they decided to leave before they could be forced out. The weight of what they had learned settled over the room like a heavy blanket. The humans had not abandoned the galaxy out of anger or selfishness. They had left because they realized they would never be truly welcome, no matter what they did or how much they contributed. What do we do now? Tusktar asked. Now we live with the consequences of our choices, Vextar replied, and we try to learn from our mistakes, even though it may be too late to fix them. 1 year had passed since the humans left the galaxy. Speaker Vextar stood before the Galactic Council in chambers that felt too big and too empty. The human section still sat vacant, its chairs arranged in perfect rows with no one to fill them. Council had changed in ways that no one had expected. The economic crisis had forced many smaller civilizations to merge their operations or abandon their outer colonies entirely. The hegemony, which had once seemed so powerful, now sat isolated in their corner of the chamber. Most other species refused to work with them after learning about their conspiracy against humanity. Today marks the first anniversary of humanity's departure from our community. Vextar began, his crystal voice echoing in the quiet chamber. It is appropriate that we take time to reflect on what we have learned. The speaker paused, looking out at the assembled delegates. Many of them were the same beings who had been here a year ago, but they looked older now. The stress of trying to hold their civilization together without human help had taken its toll on everyone. We have learned that we valued what humanity provided, Vextar continued, but we failed to value humanity itself. Chancellor Morgan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Over the past year, his own people had begun questioning his leadership. The Centauri Federation was struggling without human agricultural assistance, and many of his colonies were demanding to know why he had not done more to keep the humans in the council. Minister Valanash rose from his platform. His species had suffered more than most from humanity's departure. The economic analysis is complete, he announced. Galactic trade volume has decreased by 47%. 17 colonies have been abandoned due to supply shortages. The average standard of living across all member species has dropped to levels not seen in 30 years. The numbers were devastating, but they only told part of the story. What could not be measured was the sense of loss that permeated everything. The galaxy felt smaller somehow, less hopeful, as if an important light had gone out. Dr. Catherine stood to give his science report. Research productivity has declined by 62%. We have been forced to abandon 31 major projects due to lack of human expertise. Medical facilities across the galaxy have closed their advanced treatment centers because we cannot maintain human-designed equipment. He paused, consulting his notes. Perhaps most significantly, we have made no major scientific breakthroughs in the past year. For the first time in our recorded history, galactic knowledge has not advanced. The aquatic delegate from Hydros Prime surfaced in her tank, her bioluminescent patches dim with sadness. Our deep space exploration program has been cancelled indefinitely. Without human navigators and engineers, we cannot safely travel to the distant systems we had hoped to study. One by one, the delegates shared reports of failure and loss. Projects abandoned, opportunities missed, problems that remained unsolved because the people who might have solved them were no longer there. But the most painful reports came from individual beings who had worked closely with humans. Dr. Six from the Alteran system spoke about his former human colleague, Dr. Lisa Hayes. She taught me to see patterns in data that I had never noticed before. She showed me how to ask questions that led to unexpected discoveries. I have tried to continue our research, but I realized now that I was never really her partner. I was her student, and I did not learn enough before she left. Engineer Mortek described his attempt to complete Kate Lewis's fusion reactor design. We have some of the smartest engineers in the galaxy working on this project, but intelligence is not enough. Kate had something else, something we do not understand. She could look at a problem and somehow know the answer before she even started. Calculating. We can calculate, but we cannot see. Captain Durlock of the Gastropod Consortium spoke about the collapse of interstellar shipping. Human traders were not just reliable business partners. They were willing to take risks that others would not take. They would deliver supplies to dangerous areas, help colonies that other species had written off as too risky to support. Without them, many worlds have become isolated. The testimonies went on for hours. Each speaker added another piece to the picture of what had been lost. The humans had not just been useful members of the galactic community. They had been the heart of it, the ones who connected different species and made the whole system work. As the session continued, it became clear that the galaxy had not just lost a trading partner or a source of technology. It had lost something. Harder to define, but perhaps more important. It had lost hope. Dr. Sylvan, from the Telepathic Council, shared the most disturbing discovery of all. We have been monitoring the psychological state of beings across the galaxy. What we have found is unprecedented. Depression rates have increased by 300%. Anxiety disorders have become common even among species that rarely experienced such problems. Why? Speaker Vextar asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Humans were the species that always believed things could get better, Dr. Sylvan explained. When faced with impossible problems, other species would often give up or accept limitations. Humans would keep trying. They would find new approaches, invent solutions that no one else had thought of, refuse to believe that anything was truly impossible. She paused, her tentacles curling with sadness. Without that influence, the galaxy has become a more pessimistic place. We are learning that hope, like any other resource, can be depleted. The session was interrupted by a message from the long-range sensor array. Communications Director Kelth scuttled to his speaking platform with unusual urgency. We have detected something at the edge of the galaxy, he announced. A signal, very faint, but definitely artificial. The chamber erupted in excited murmurs. After a year of searching, had they finally found some trace of humanity? What kind of signal? Vextar asked, mathematical in nature. It repeats every few hours from a fixed point near the galactic rim. Can you decode it? Kelth hesitated. It appears to be written in human mathematical notation. Our experts are working on translation now. For the next hour, the council waited in tense silence while teams of linguists and mathematicians worked to understand the signal. Finally, a message arrived from the translation team. Kelth read it aloud. The signal contains star charts for a galaxy, approximately 2.5 million light-years away. There is also a brief message. What does the message say? Vextar asked. Kelth's voice was quiet as he read, We have arrived. We are well. We will remember our friends. The chamber fell completely silent. After a year of wondering and searching, they finally had their answer. The humans had not just left the galaxy. They had traveled to another one entirely. Is there anything else? Someone asked. One final line, Kelth replied. Thank you for the lessons. We will do better. The weight of those words hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. The humans were thanking them for lessons, but not the lessons the council had intended to teach. They were thanking them for showing them what not to do, how not to treat others, how not to build a community. Speaker Vextar stood silently for several minutes, looking out at the empty human section. Finally, he spoke. The humans have found a new home. They are building a new life, probably a better one than they could have had here. And we are left to contemplate what we have lost through our own failures. He turned to address the full council. I propose that we establish a memorial in honor of humanity's contributions to our civilization, not just their scientific achievements or their economic value, but their example of perseverance, hope, and dignity in the face of injustice. The vote was unanimous. Over the following months, memorials were built across the galaxy. The Altarians composed quantum songs that captured the essence of human determination. The Gastropod Consortium erected monuments to human traders who had helped their civilization flourish. The crystalline beings grew memorial gardens where human botanists had taught them to cultivate earth flowers. But perhaps the most important, Memorial was not built of stone or metal. It was the changes that slowly began to appear in how species treated each other. The humans had left behind an example of how to respond to injustice with dignity rather than violence. And some were beginning to learn from that example, Dr. Carl. Ross's abandoned research station was converted into a library containing all of humanity's scientific contributions. Scholars from across the galaxy came to study human methods and approaches to problem-solving in the human quarters of 1,000 space stations. Automated systems continued their quiet work. Lights blinked, air circulators hummed, and maintenance. Routines executed perfectly. The humans might be gone, but the infrastructure of their care remained. The galaxy continued, but it was diminished. And those who remained knew they might never see humanity's like again. But perhaps, if they learned from their mistakes, they could become worthy of the second chance that humanity had given them by leaving peacefully rather than fighting. In the Andromeda Galaxy, 12 billion humans were building something new. And in the Milky Way, 46 species were finally learning to appreciate what they had lost.